want to get right to that breaking news, an anti-Muslim terror attack in New Zealand. The Prime Minister there is calling it one of the nation's darkest days. A gunman attacked 2 mosques while hundreds of Muslims were praying.
The man who is claiming responsibility and charged with murder is an extreme right-wing white supremacist who live-streamed the attack, saying it was aimed at immigrants. Security stepping up here in the U.S. That's a live look at the Islamic Cultural Center right here in New York City.
So here's what we know right now. At least 49 people were killed, 48 more wounded, multiple IEDs discovered attached to vehicles, and 3 people are now in custody. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell starts us off with the very latest.
Horrific scenes in a normally peaceful country playing out at 2 mosques in Christchurch. As worshippers were at midday prayers, the holiest of the week, multiple people ruthlessly gunned down. At 1:42 p.m. local time, witnesses say a man dressed all in black entered the Masjid Al-Noor mosque, shooting an automatic weapon.
People were running out. I saw some people had blood on their body and some people were limping.
This man, seen with blood on his shirt, was the last to escape, hiding under a bench.
He just came in, he was shooting, and I'm thinking that, if I get out, I'll get shot, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed so I could be alive. But yeah, I was the last guy to come out of the mosque after the shooting stopped. And on the doors, there were a lot of bodies.
The killer then drove 3 miles across town to the Linwood Mosque, where he opened fire again. Armed police closed in on the scene, searching cars for suspects, guns drawn. Police ramming a suspect's car, and then you can see him being taken into custody beside the vehicle. 2 men and a woman now in custody in connection to the attacks. The shooter, who appears to have been from Australia, is linked to a 74-page manifesto filled with white supremacist rhetoric. He's charged with murder. Police also saying they defused 2 improvised explosive devices that were found on a vehicle after the shootings. Amidst the chaos, police officials now warning people to stay away from any mosque in New Zealand for now, in case of further violence.
I want to ask anyone that was thinking of going to a mosque anywhere in New Zealand today not to go, to close your doors until you hear from us again.
Ambulances rushing victim after victim to hospitals as bystanders help the wounded.
We pulled up and I opened up my driver's door and got out, and we pulled him round behind and then opened up the back as well, give us some protection. I'm 66 and never thought in my life I'd love to see something like this.
Overnight, New Zealand's Prime Minister condemning this terrorist attack.
This is one of New Zealand's darkest days. Clearly, what has happened here is an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence.
So, details still coming in about the attacker, his alleged accomplices, but most importantly, the victims. 2 reasons why this was so shocking. 1, it was broadcast live by the attacker himself, but most importantly, this is a country that has never seen a terrorist attack ever before. But nor should it be seen in isolation. There's been a noticeable increase in extreme right-wing terrorist attacks from America to Europe and elsewhere. And whether you're going to a mosque, to a church or to a temple today, the chances are you're going to be on high alert as you do the most peaceful possible thing: pray.
Passing through Mozambique, bringing with it heavy rainfall and wind speeds of up to 177 kilometers per hour. While the storm has killed more than 100 people and destroyed thousands of homes, officials say 500,000 residents have been left without electricity and communications have also been severed. The storm has also passed through Malawi. The South African Weather Service says significant rainfall and widespread flooding can be expected over extreme eastern parts of Zimbabwe and southern parts of Malawi. All right, now for an update on Cyclone Idai, we're joined via Skype by Karikoka Kutsajauche, who is the Zimbabwean Red Cross Operations Director. Good afternoon, KK, and thank you so much for your time on the SABC News Desk. We have some South African-based humanitarian organizations like Gift of the Givers calling this cyclone or the biggest water rescue operation they had to ever undertake in Mozambique. week. How bad is it in Zimbabwe right now?
Currently, the situation is quite dire in our Eastern Highlands area, especially in Chimanimani, where we are having it's mostly a mountainous area, and most people do stay in valleys. And we have since lost to date by 2 p.m. 23 lives and over 70 people are reported missing. And in terms of devastation of homesteads and all these other things, over 100 to 200 homesteads have been destroyed to date.
Tell me, KK, what are the immediate needs of people right now?
The immediate needs for people is shelter, in terms of temporary shelter, because most people have been displaced. There is need for food. There is also need for medicals in case for those who have been injured. We have a situation at one boarding school because of landslides, St. Charles in Rusitu in the Eastern Highlands, where the dormitories, whilst the students were still asleep, boulders were rolling over within the classroom and within their hostels. And this has resulted in us losing 2 lives of young people there.
Where are the worst affected areas in Zimbabwe right now, KK?
The worst affected in the Eastern Highlands, Chimanimani, Chipinge, and now it will be moving further up into the western direction, into the Mashonaland east, into Mrewa and Mtoko. But the worst hit area currently is Chimanimani, which together the Department of Civil Protection and all the air rescue efforts are being undertaken.
And how accessible are these areas in terms of rescue operations, KK?
Mainly the major best way for rescue operations would be more of airlifting through helicopters, because most of the roads have been swept and no more bridges in most other areas. So that's one key challenge which we are also facing in terms of reaching out as Red Cross to some of these areas of need.
Tell us, where are affected families being sheltered right now?
We have, like in the Eastern Highlands, some of them have been sheltered at high ground schools. We also have some churches. We have others also being housed. We have timber sawmills, because this is where we have our timber, all the high grounds area. That's where people are seeking refuge.
How robust or effective a response, an aid response, have you had from the Zimbabwean government thus far, KK?
So far, at the national level, the Department of Civil Protection from yesterday or over the past week has been sharing information for people to be ready for Cyclone Idai, and also to move to higher ground as much as possible. And to date, the Department of Civil Protection is coordinating all humanitarian actors for a coordinated response mechanism and ensuring that all resources are mobilized and reaching the most need in time.
Viewers out there who might be listening and want to come to the aid of affected Zimbabweans, how would they contact you and what would they have to do?
You can reach us on as Zimbabwe Red Cross, and the landline numbers, or especially the cell numbers, because our landline numbers are also being affected because of this cyclone. But currently our cell numbers, you can reach us on the on our cell numbers +263 771 674797. That's my direct number as the Director of Operations, and we'll also be sharing, I'm sure as we go, numbers from the Department of Civil Protection, which are also available.
Thank you.
My email is kk@redcrosszim.org.zw, and our Facebook, Zimbabwe Red Cross.
Thank you so much. That was KK joining us via Skype, who's from the Zimbabwean Red Cross Operations Director. KK is telling us that Cyclone Idai has claimed 23 lives in Zimbabwe, 70 people reported missing so far. The worst hit are areas in the
there, our correspondent Loretta Chogo is there. So Loretta, tell us more now. The last time we spoke, you had said that rescue efforts were put on pause for them to get a bit of rest. Have they started again now?
Of course, excavation is still ongoing here, and I'm sure you can see that behind me, and the crowd have refused to go. Perhaps on their minds and in their eyes, all they want to see is that another survivor is pulled out from the rubble. But I think I can safely say that I don't think that there's a chance of pulling out more survivors from here. The crowd are very optimistic that even though the excavator has not reached the ground zero yet, because it's still working behind me, that there could be hope for a survivor, another survivor to be pulled out. As at 6 p.m. I did report that about 3 survivors, adult survivors, were pulled out, and 1 dead body, which has been taken to the mortuary. And also, this is Itafaji, popular area on Lagos Island, where you have lots of houses, about 3, 4, 5-story buildings, all clustered together. And this particular one was a 3-story building that housed residents and also a school that we understand the name is Owen Nursery and Primary School. It was a busy session for the school when this particular building caved in on the children and of course on the residents as well. And I must tell you that earlier, before now, there were frantic calls coming out from the rubble, because people around here told us that people inside the rubble were making calls to them and telling them, sending them SOS messages and telling them that they are still alive. But like I said earlier, it doesn't look as if there's going to be any other survivor coming out from this rubble. But the rubble is being taken now into the lorry that is going to load it out. And earlier when we spoke with the general manager of Lastema, he did tell us that they are not putting any figure yet to those who have been rescued, because earlier in the day some students were rescued and taken to the Lagos Island General Hospital, and I'm sure you saw some of the footages of those who were injured, and some were stabilized while some still needed more medical care. So we are hopeful that those who need more medical care will survive the injuries that they sustained.
Yeah, Loretta, sorry if I can just Loretta, if I can just say that, remember that some of the victims' families perhaps are watching, and it'll be better for us to say that there is still hope rather than say that you don't think anyone will still be alive. So just to say that Channels Television has not said that no one else will survive. So what we are actually saying is that we will wait until the officials finally get to ground zero and say to us that no one else is alive, just remembering that family and friends.
Well, Kathy, at the beating heart of Boeing, a company so important to this local community and more broadly the entirety of the state of Washington, well, they're just having to get on with it. Workers at the plant here making these very jets, they've shown up for work today and they're carrying on building them. In a bubble, if you like, while this storm surrounding their company plays out all over the world. A lot of it is coming from that other Washington, Washington, D.C., where Congress has the stirrings of investigations. Why is it, they are asking, that the US, for so long a world leader in aviation safety, took so long to come to the same conclusion and ground these planes over safety concerns as so many other nations? And beyond that, Democrat Congressman Peter DeFazio has now said it's become abundantly clear to us that there should be a rigorous investigation into why the aircraft, which has critical safety systems that did not exist in prior models, was certified without requiring additional pilot training. So plenty of questions for Boeing there. The Senate, there is discussion now about an investigation there as well, and even talk of Boeing being subpoenaed in the coming months. For now, though, the company's priority is right here, getting these jets finished, fixed and flying.
A Boeing aeroplane is 45,000 pieces flying in close formation. An old running joke in Renton, where all of those pieces are put together. Every 737 MAX model is made here, 52 every month. Now they're all dressed up with no place to go.
Any plane currently in the air will go to its destination and thereafter be grounded until further notice.
There's been an order issued to ground this aircraft. Sorry for the delay.
Radar trackers showed MAX models disappearing from US airspace. And passengers who hadn't taken off didn't.
Yeah, just relieved we're on the ground.
Two downed airplanes, new models. I deal with equipment every day, and I understand when things happen a little too quickly out of the gate. It's usually a sign of some issues, and I wasn't going to be at 35,000 feet with an issue.
As the intact data and voice recorders from the Ethiopian Airlines flight that crashed on Sunday were delivered for analysis in France, US regulators explained why they now believe that jet and October's doomed Lion Air flight may have been brought down by the same cause. Both appear to have made erratic movements after takeoff, which the pilots struggled to control.
We got new information yesterday, and we acted on it. And it is in our minds now a link that is close enough to ground the airplanes.
It's a headline the Seattle Times newsroom expected to publish days ago.
The FAA is very close to Boeing, very close to the industry in this country, and so they held out. I think it's clear now they shouldn't have.
For the best part of 2 decades, Dominic Gates has chronicled the ups and downs of Boeing's fortunes, the biggest private employer in his state.
The best case for Boeing is that this second crash perhaps is actually the same cause, because they have been working on a fix for this system, this flight control system that went haywire on the Lion Air crash. When that fix is approved by the FAA and sent out to all the airlines, that they can get back up in the air.
That could take weeks or months, turning the production line at the Renton plant into a very expensive parking lot. There are 4,600 orders of MAX models pending here, worth more than £400 billion in revenue. So today, just like any other day, staff must carry on building the jets that no airline is flying.
Let's measure the other foot to see how much shorter.
As the nervous business community of Renton, their town built on Boeing, watches on.
I mean, it's kind of the center of the city, you know. A lot of people work there. A lot of people that work there shop here too, so we're all connected.
So much here depends on Boeing's best-selling jets flying again. But even if that happens quickly, another costly, bigger question remains. If these jets do have a problem that needs fixing, why were they certified to fly in the first place?
Well, one angle being looked at by air accident investigators is whether software called MCAS, designed to keep planes' nose down during takeoff, contributed to the crash. Our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, has spoken exclusively to one senior pilot in Ethiopia who has concerns about the system.
Mourners gathering at the crash site of the Ethiopian Airways Flight 302. It plunged to Earth 6 minutes after takeoff and 5 months after an exact same Boeing model, the 737 MAX 8, crashed into the sea itself just 8 minutes after becoming airborne. The big question for investigators, did the two planes crash for the same reason? Part of the investigation centres around a new safety system called MCAS. It was included in the 737 series for the first time because the new design of the plane meant it had a tendency for its nose to pitch up. If that happens, the MCAS software kicks in and pulls the nose of the plane back down, known as trimming, to prevent it from stalling. The problem is, even before the first Lion Air crash, the pilots weren't told about the new system. Speaking to Channel 4 News, one senior Ethiopian pilot who declined to be named told us.
What is quite weird for us pilots is why we didn't know about it until an aeroplane crashed.
So you didn't know the MCAS software was there?
No, not until the first crash. We knew it was a bigger aeroplane, but if the company tells you that you don't need different training, then the basic assumption is that the flying characteristics are the same.
It revealed for the first time that in the new Boeing 737 plane there is a potential for repeated nose-down commands which, if not addressed, could cause the flight crew to have difficulty controlling the plane and lead to excessive nose-down attitude, significant altitude loss and possible impact with terrain. Even after the guidance was issued, the pilot claimed Boeing didn't visit them to conduct any special training. Now, after the second crash, they're nervous.
There is a feeling that there might be something that we don't really yet know about the MCAS system. Because when Boeing issued a bulletin about the system, the only thing they mentioned is that the existing procedure for excessive nose-down altitude would still apply.
All planes have these so-called trimming systems for safety, but the pilot claims there's one key feature missing with the new MCAS software.
Let's say I'm flying an aeroplane and I would see that the aeroplane is trimming nose down. If I notice that and I grab the controls and pull it up, then the trim would normally stop regardless of what caused it. But when it comes to the MCAS, this system has been disabled. If the MCAS is trimming down and if I pull up on the controls, nothing happens. It continues to trim.
The pilot said there were other ways to override the MCAS system, but stressed if it kicked in at low altitude, such as during takeoff, there may not be sufficient time to shut it down and manually pull up to safety. Boeing told us tonight.
Boeing continues to have full confidence in the safety of the 737 MAX. We are doing everything we can to understand the cause of the accident and deploy safety enhancements. MCAS was put through flight testing as part of the certification process prior to the aeroplane entering service. The pilot will always be able to override the flight control law. Using electric trim or manual trim.
But according to the pilot we've spoken to, in certain situations, that may not be the case.
For more on the story, we can go across to our correspondent Catherine Osborne in Rio for us. Catherine, what more details do we have for now?
Police say that the two young men, who appear to be in their early 20s, entered the school around 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning. They first shot at a local car wash that was near the school, then entered the school. It was a public school. They opened fire on the inside, shooting staffers of the school and students, and then eventually committing suicide on the inside. And really, in the hours since, authorities have been surrounding the area and trying to make sure victims are being attended to, people who need hospital care are being seen, and also the area is secure because police have said they found an explosive in the backpack of the two young men. And this has really highlighted the fact that school shootings, which are not as common in Brazil as places like the United States, for example, have occurred with more frequency over the past decade. This is the first one like this year, but they've been about one per year over the past decade. The last big one was in 2017 in Goiás, in a more rural area. And it's also unquestionably going to bring up some questions about gun control and the fact that the new administration wants to make it easier for people to access firearms. That's the Bolsonaro administration. They've already passed a decree making it easier for you to buy a gun. So the question of how these men got the gun and what their motive was will be discussed here over the coming days.